A horny middle school substitute teacher who's only saving up money for breast implants by working in a school. Watch out, and spoilers ahead. The movie opens with a faculty member's celebration. Champagne bottle pop. There's a sigh of sadness from the crowd. Principal Wally Snurr announces that one of their faculty members is leaving and calls out Elizabeth. There's a parting in the crowd, and we see Elizabeth waving. Principal Snurr hands her a small gift card. She opens to see the collection amount of $37. She then gives a speech to the members. As she starts the speech, we see a flashback of the things she used to do. Elizabeth runs away as she spots a crying student. She runs away as she sees a celebration of one of the teacher's birthdays. Elizabeth drives back home. She reaches home and walks through the front door. Elizabeth screams from the other side of the room, asking him to get himself hard. As she walks in, she sees Mark sitting on the couch with his mom. Mark says he needs a break. He also tells her how the accountant said that she spent $16,000 last month. Mark's mother intervenes to ask Elizabeth if she really loves her. She also asks if she remembers his birthday and confuses her, saying it's today. She hands him the gift card as his birthday gift. That's when he and his mother realize that she is only after his money. 3 months later, Elizabeth walks into her classroom. That's when she meets a new faculty member, Amy Squirrel. Amy puts her hands in front of her mouth, imitating a squirrel. When Amy asks Elizabeth about the breakup, she accuses Mark of cheating on her with another guy. It's the first day of school. Elizabeth gets in the class and off the lights. She asks 2 students to roll the TV. She then takes a bite from the cookies Sasha had given her and spits it out. The next scene is in the school cafeteria. Elizabeth meets Russell. As he asks about the engagement, Elizabeth accuses Mark of trying to hit it with his dog. Russell asks Elizabeth if she could go on a date with him, but Elizabeth rejects advances from the school's gym teacher. Elizabeth sees a new substitute teacher across the hall, Scott. As they converse, Elizabeth realizes that his family has money. Elizabeth immediately starts trying to seduce him. She asks him if he's with his wife to know that he just got out of a relationship. Scott takes out his phone and shows her a picture of Catherine wearing a bikini. Scott says she has a big heart. Elizabeth notices her big boobs. She believes she needs the breasts of her dreams to pry Scott's attention. Elizabeth goes to a plastic surgeon. One of the surgeon's former patients displays his work to her by cupping her exposed breasts in her hands and moving them around. Elizabeth checks out realistic photoshopped mock-ups of how she'd look after the operation. They calculate the breast enlargement operation costs. Elizabeth found it impossible to pay $9,300. She reschedules it. Elizabeth thinks about raising money for surgery through this 7th grade car wash. Elizabeth decides to meet Principal Snurr. They talk about the principal's interest. Elizabeth asks Snurr if she could supervise the car wash. It's the day of the car wash event. Garrett stands at the school entrance holding a giant cardboard sign that reads car wash. The kids all dutifully scrubbing parents' cars. Elizabeth shows up in Daisy Duke denim shorts and a cropped, very revealing button-down top. While supervising the car wash fundraiser, she sprays water over herself. The older man in the Cadillac comes back to have his car re-washed. A gawking police officer crashes into a minivan. A student gets an erection that's visible through his pants. She glances around and then shoves a large clump of cash into her Daisy Dukes. Amy, across the street, watches her. Amy stalks the principal into the men's restroom. She tries to hold an impromptu meeting with the principal while sitting in one of the stalls. She sits on a urinal at one point. Elizabeth and Lynn notice Amy consoling a girl. Scott walks down the ramp and high-fives a bunch of kids. Elizabeth gives Lynn a "can you get out of here" look. Amy interrupts Elizabeth and Scott's talk. Elizabeth is up front. She's staring at the parents. They stare right back at her. After a small meeting, they head back to the back of the class. Elizabeth sits in her car. She lights a joint with a cigarette lighter and deeply inhales. Sasha knocks on the window. She also asks if it's marijuana, but she denies it. Sasha then hands over cookies to Elizabeth. She grabs the container and quickly closes her window. Later, at a party, Scott confesses her love for Amy to Elizabeth. Elizabeth walks up to a liquor store. It's locked. A minivan passes. It's Garrett and his mom. They invite Elizabeth to celebrate Christmas together. Elizabeth tears through a plate of Christmas cuisine. Garrett stands in front of Elizabeth and his family. He opens his journal, clears his throat, and begins his poem. Later, she tells him that someone who wears the same gymnastics sweatshirt isn't getting laid until 26. Later, Elizabeth is checking her makeup in the mirror. Lynn enters. Lynn invites Elizabeth to see the Period 5 play. She refuses to go. Elizabeth and Lynn bump into Scott. As Scott asks her, she agrees to go. Scott, Sandy, and a balding bass player with a yarmulke and a heavy-set drummer are playing their hearts out. Amy and a couple of other teachers are grooving to the music. Elizabeth watches Amy dance in slow-mo, her breasts bouncing up and down. Lynn informs Elizabeth about the bonus where they'll get $5,700. It's the next day. Elizabeth waits in the doorway impatiently as the kids filter in. Everything is about to be changed. The next day, she questions the children. Sasha raises her hand. We see that she has 2 gold star stickers on her forehead. They also play dodgeball. If she deems a student answer dumb, she hurls a ball at him. If it's a good answer, she lets him throw a ball at her. Russell gives pointers on how best to throw a ball, and the projectile promptly smacks Elizabeth in the head. Scott and Amy are sitting together eating. Russell and Lynn also join them. Elizabeth enters. Amy tells her that her shirt is misbuttoned. Elizabeth turns away from them and starts rebuttoning. Russell tries to sneak a peek. Amy and Sasha sit in the empty auditorium. Sasha is dressed as a little orphan Annie with a red wig. She asks Sasha if she remembers anything suspicious. She tells her about the prescribed medicine Elizabeth smoked. Amy then goes to the principal to talk about it. A portly, unkempt man in a cheap suit, Carl Halabi, state professor, nervously walks through the hotel bar. Elizabeth introduces herself as Marjorie. They later enter his office, and Carl awkwardly leans against the metal desk. She pours GHB into Carl's wine. As Carl passes out, she goes over to the filing cabinets and grabs a folder. After a few weeks, Principal Snurr announces Elizabeth the winner of the bonus test. She pays for the appointment to get her breasts enlarged. One day, Elizabeth comes to school early. She rubs the apple with poison ivy leaves and keeps it on Amy's desk. Amy takes a bite from it. Amy's face is entirely blistered, scaly and red from the poison ivy. In the classroom, Amy opens Elizabeth's desk. She pulls out the red wig and the test booklet. Amy informs the principal and gets Carl to testify against her. Later in the Radisson Hotel, Elizabeth and Scott are dry humping. Elizabeth secretly calls Amy using Scott's phone, leaving a message recording all the action. Amy confronts Elizabeth about sleeping with Scott, stealing Annie's wig and state test. Elizabeth sends Kirk to blackmail Carl. He hands him an envelope. It has pictures of him naked that she snapped of him in the aftermath. The next day, as Carl is questioned, he denies everything that happened. As Elizabeth knew that her desk was switched, she states that teachers in the school use drugs. When the police bring a sniffer dog to search the school, they find Elizabeth's mini liquor bottles, marijuana, and OxyContin pills in Amy's classroom. It's like the first scene of the movie. The teachers are sipping plastic flutes of champagne. Principal Snurr is up front. Amy says goodbye to the school. Scott asks Elizabeth if they could grab a drink, but she walks away. After the summer break, Lynn notices Elizabeth hadn't gotten her breasts done. She says she doesn't need them, and also that she has found her love. Russell passes them in the hallway, and he sticks his tongue out in a sexual gesture. Elizabeth now has a new position as the new guidance counselor.